he is sent to a world where humanity has been destroyed. If you dig my recaps, don't forget to subscribe and smash that notification bell. After humanity won a bloody war, Kai Sakura Vento is sent to a parallel world where humans were defeated in that conflict. Facing an entity unsure whether it's an angel or a demon, the hero is surprised to see this being asking for help from him, a human. After all, in his world, humanity waged an endless battle against the 4 enemy races, but in this alternate world, no one remembers who he is. As usual, Kai leaves his vehicle to monitor the cemetery for exactly 300 seconds. Impatient, his companions wait for the job to be done, because methodical as always, he doesn't compromise on a single second. Through his binoculars, he observes one of the pillars of the conflict caused by the demons who wield enormous magical power. On the other side of the trench, angels and elves are considered half-human celestial beings. Among them, spirits are deeply involved in this war, creatures with special types of bodies. Additionally, mythical beasts such as dragons ravage the battlefields with their unparalleled ferocity. Together with humanity, all these beings started a widespread conflict known as the Great War of the 5 races. Kai, as one of the soldiers of the Urza Federation, cannot allow this clash to reignite. That's why he relentlessly monitors the cemetery where the demons were sealed. After completing the 300 seconds of observation, the young soldier returns to the Urza vehicle and leaves. Frustrated, Ashran remarks that no demon has escaped the seal in 100 years, but Kai emphasizes that their job as the Human Protection Agency is to ensure that it never happens. Ashran argues that there are 4 cemeteries like this around the world, and it doesn't help if they're the only ones taking this job seriously. His colleague has no doubt that everyone gives their best to do a good job, because a demon escape would cause an unprecedented catastrophe. Saki, the woman on the team, tries to calm their friend, making it clear that everything is peaceful, but he doesn't want to lower his guard for a moment. After the trip, they return to Vishal and the Urza Federation, where the branch that employs the 3 of them is located. In one of the training sessions, alongside an unconscious Ashran, Kai uses a mythical beast-type machine dummy, and is warned by the system that it's extremely risky to fight an opponent of this level as a low-ranking soldier. Ignoring the warning, the soldier attacks the mechanical beast's ankle, but causes no damage. When the dragon is about to swallow him, Saki turns off the robot and ends the combat training. Worried, she warns that he will end up dying if he continues at this insane pace, but Kai believes he needs to push his limits to make the practice worthwhile. For these reasons and others, the girl believes that this boy would have gone down in history if he had been born in the era of the Great War of the 5 races, just like the Prophet Sid. Kai feels honored by the compliment, but doesn't see himself worthy of such an achievement. As much as the legend is praised among humans, the girl can't imagine that just one man defeated these 4 heroes. The demon heroine Dark Empress Vanessa, the celestial lord Alfraya, the spirit sovereign Rikujin Kyoko, and the lord of mythical beasts, the Fang King Wrath. Despite his partner's disbelief, Kai asserts that Sid emerged victorious from this war because of the shining sword given by the prophetic god Arsla Salaka. Nevertheless, she points out that there are no photos or videos of the human hero, unlike all the others, so she remains skeptical about Sid's existence. That said, she goes to give Ashran a wake-up poke in the ribs and asks the guys what they want to do to celebrate Jean's promotion. Ashran says a bouquet of flowers will do, but Saki points out that the woman is being transferred to the royal capital of Urzak at 17, being the youngest in history to be selected, so a few shabby flowers won't do justice to such an achievement. Speaking of her, Jean sends a message inviting Kai to meet her tomorrow morning at Terminal 9 in front of the cat statue, but asks him to keep it a secret from Saki and Ashran. The 2 friends start teasing him about this secret romance, so he gets riled up and says he's going for a run. The next day, he meets Jean because the girl will be transferred next week and doesn't want to miss seeing her friend before then. Besides, she thought he was on leave despite the uniform indicating otherwise. He explains that he did his morning training and came straight over, so she replies that Kai is the only guy who isn't intimidated by the idea of shopping with her, and that's what she likes about him. Jean's idea is to buy a gift for Saki and Ashran before heading to Urzak, since the 3 of them are probably thinking the same thing, and this will be the last time they see each other. Kai thinks this is an exaggeration because the promoted one would return after 2 years of cadet training in Vishal, but Jean recalls that during this time Saki and Ashran will have finished their military service and will return to civilian life. She believes that only Kai will will continue in Urza until then, and the boy shares this sentiment. Proud of his friend, he assures her that she will surpass even her father in her career, the head of the Urza headquarters. This has been Jean's dream since she was a child, and everything she has pursued in life since then. With that said, continuing their outing, the two stop to eat something, while the girl thinks about what to get for their friends. After deciding, she thanks Kai for his company. During this conversation, she remembers when the boy got lost in the demon cemetery at 10 years old, when his father took him there for inspection. When he got home that day, Kai said he saw Sid's sword. He vividly remembers that day when he fell into an absolute void surrounded by those terrifying creatures, until in his free fall, a shining sword illuminated the path and attracted the touch of the young Kai Sakura. Despite the trauma, Kai never shared this story with anyone else, believing no one would believe him. Since that incident, he felt a personal responsibility to ensure those demons never escape the cemetery. Because of this mindset, Jean believes the young man will still be with the Agency for the Protection of Humanity in 2 years. Speaking of which, she asks him what he thinks the future holds beyond those 2 years. But before he can answer, Kai sees the world around him slowly crumbling. Amidst this static distortion, some sort of system announces that global reincarnation has been activated. With that, Kai Sakura Vento is transported to an alternate world where the buildings in his city Vishal had all been destroyed and a dark, war-torn environment had taken over. Above it all, a gigantic demon appears behind the buildings and attacks him with its magic. Managing to escape death, and without time to reflect on everything, Kai runs towards his rifle and fires at the demon's new spell, with a modified elven bullet cancelling the spell and surprising his opponent. Enraged, the creature charges at the man again, requiring great dodging skills from Kai, who manages to overcome the obstacles and strike the enemy with his bayonet. The demon's skin was extremely tough, rendering the blade useless. However, the Urza soldier fires again at the demon, this time with a modified draconic bullet that reproduces the breath of mythical beasts. After causing a tremendous explosion in the target's body, Kai takes pride in having executed the moves he trained to defeat a demon. Indignant, another evil entity appears, unable to believe a human defeated one of its kind, and Kai notices that the being can speak human language surprisingly well. The demon emphasizes that the easiest way to command a slave is by communicating in their language, and this statement shocks Kai, making him realize he must be the scum of this world. The demon senses danger in the boy and conjures a spell to kill him until Saki arrives with the Urza jeep, throws a flash grenade at the entity, and saves her friend. With that done, Kai shouts his friend's name, but Saki doesn't know why this stranger knows her name. Similarly, Kai approaches Ashran, but he also doesn't know who the boy is. Not understanding anything, the protagonist recalls that the three of them were part of the same unit at the Agency for the Protection of Humanity, but Saki also doesn't know what agency that is because she's a soldier of the Resistance, the rebel human army. Increasingly confused, Kai asks what happened to this world, and the girl explains that there was a long battle called the Great War of the Five Races, and humanity was defeated over 30 years ago. Each city in the world was invaded by the enemy races, and since then, the surviving humans have been hiding as best they can. According to Ashran, the other races are still fighting over the conquered territories, and the Urza Federation was taken over by demons, forcing all residents to flee. However, taking advantage of an underground area that survived the war, intact humans produced a refuge to live in. Kai questions how humanity lost this battle, and the two resistance soldiers explain that they were no match for such powerful creatures, and each race has its own hero, unlike humans. Kai asks about the prophet Sid, but neither of them has any idea who that is. The lost boy claims he's the hero who defeated the other four races, but Ashran believes he wouldn't be living underground if this guy really existed. Around the three, the main troop of the underground city arrives. As some cities still resist, each has a garrison supervised by the main troop. According to Saki and Ashran, the commander of this troop, and the resistance is seen as a savior by the people of the Urza Federation. His name is Jean, an empathetic and charismatic leader embraced by human civilization. Among the commanded, Jean asks who the unknown soldier is, and while his colleagues explain, Kai is speechless, realizing that even his best friend doesn't know who he is. The boy can't let it go, so he shouts Jean's name and remembers that the two were shopping just a few minutes ago. The commander asks what this story is because he doesn't know this soldier, then turns back and heads to a scheduled meeting. Not satisfied Terrified, Kai questions why his friend is pretending to be a man, as her dream as a daughter was always to surpass her father's career. Phelan, one of the leader's subordinates, grabs Kai by the wrist, but Jean asks her to release him. After the commander's departure, Saki asks what's going on in the kid's head, and Ashran lends his room to the boy to rest a bit and get his mind in order. Upon arriving at Ashran's house, the visitor to this world can't think of anything other than why all this is happening to him. No matter how much he reads the documents, the only missing records are his and Sid's. What Kai doesn't understand is that if Prophet Sid never lived, there shouldn't be the 4 cemeteries to seal the 4 races. The next day, Kai questions his old friends about the cemeteries, but they know nothing of the sort. Faced with this, Kai borrows the car and promises to return by noon. Despite Saki's protests, Ashran reflexively tosses the key to the stranger, and Kai heads for the chaotic destruction of Vishal until he reaches the cemetery he monitored in the original world. As he approaches the entrance, he encounters Prophet Sid's sword and wields it. A voice from the weapon decrees that the bearer of this relic has now become the code holder. With that, Kai is taken to a place where an angelic being yearns for help. With some effort, the woman manages to say her name is Rin. Despite the inhuman situation in which this entity finds herself, Kai doesn't want to risk freeing a demon, but since he can't just leave her behind, he hopes she won't attack. He uses his blade to break the chain, but nothing happens. He tries his rifle, but not even a shot causes any damage. With that, Kai imagines he could use the sword he found in the cemetery, and even though it wasn't his intention, Sid's weapon manifests in his hands, making it clear it's the way. With a simple strike, the chains shatter, returning freedom to the prisoner. Regaining consciousness, Rin is startled and pulls away from the human's lap, then angrily shouts the name Vanessa, demanding her return and claiming she hasn't lost this fight. Disregarding Kai, Rin declares she cannot be defeated by a mere lackey demon and attacks the human. After dodging the first spell, the combatant sees a large mass of magical energy forming in front of him, ready to fly at him, when the system's voice indicates that the code bearer must cut off the fate of death. Using his blade, the young human slashes the entity's spell in half, leaving her incredulous. Rin questions how a weak demon could destroy her attacks, so Kai turns his back to prove he is human, as he has neither wings nor a tail. Realizing the situation, Rin apologizes for her behavior, explaining that her hatred for demons makes her act impulsively. As Rin claims not to be a demon, Kai asks about her species, but the woman doesn't seem comfortable with the question and asks to leave it aside. Accepting the terms, Kai now wants to know where they are, but Rin herself doesn't know, as she was fighting Vanessa and simply ended up there. Alarmed, the human asks if she's talking about the Dark Empress and heroine of demons, as that's no ordinary rival. Rin affirms she is capable of devastating an entire army of demons, but emphasizes what she just saw from this young boy. After all, he destroyed one of her spells. Kai was about to explain that the responsible one was the sword he carried, when in the meantime a robotic woman announces that the singular destiny entity has awakened, and that its threat level to the new established world is gigantic. For this reason, the robot initiates the sealing through last risers. With that said, the machine attacks Kai and Rin with all its might, and as the structure around them is shattered, they try to keep their distance, but the machine uses its portal to reach the targets and grab Rin. After doing so, it initiates Code 0, where magical orbs are conjured and injure the victim's body. Seeing this before his eyes, Kai refuses to stand still and reacts with Sid's sword cutting the metallic claw that held the singular destiny entity in half. The machine is stunned upon seeing the forbidden sword, and while Rin sees Sid's image reflected in Kai, the boy teleports them both to a distant location. Safe, Rin confesses her fear with a strong hug to her savior, a gesture the human reciprocates. Analyzing the circumstances, he asks if the woman has no companions, and indeed she has no one. In fact, it's the first time someone has done something like this for her. Both celestial spirits and beasts said that Rin is not like them, and the demons were the cruelest of all, saying the girl is an abomination. That's why Rin ended up in a duel with their leader Vanessa. Similarly, Kai identifies with the entity's life story, as no one remembers who he is in this world. As far as he knew, humans had won the Great War of the 5 races, but now he sees the city which was once his home crumbled into ruins. Rin confesses she didn't know that, especially since a little before fighting Vanessa, humans were starting to win the war after the appearance of a hero. Hearing this, Kai asks if the girl knows Sid, but she doesn't remember anyone by that name. Still, the man is content to have a companion and share a familiar her story with someone. Happy with this idea, Rin had never heard anyone call her a companion, and this strengthens the bond between the two lost beings in this dark universe. As they begin their journey, Rin faints, making the boy carry her on his shoulder. He says they need to pass through the city, and though she doesn't generally trust humans, she trusts Kai, so she goes with him. Later, already lying in bed, Kai feels the weight of his own body after the torturous day. As if that weren't enough, on the way to the city, Rin panicked in the car, and though she can hide her wings from the people, she still draws much attention with her strange behavior. Hearing Rin singing in the shower, Kai never imagined that other races knew how to sing. Suddenly, she runs out in a towel to alert him that the water has stopped flowing. Speaking of which, she considers humans very unfair for having this hot water to bathe in, while all her life she had to bathe in the cold waters of rivers and lakes. Furthermore, Kai's bed is so soft, while she spent her entire life sleeping on underbrush and rocks. However, as she herself saw on the surface, now this human city has turned to ruins, just as the man had said. Even he finds it hard to believe he's in a world where the historical outcome of the Great War has been reversed. Rin bets they will find a way out of there and return to the world they came from, and for now hope is the only thing they have. When it's time to sleep, Rin lies in a warm bed for the first time while Kai tries to rest on the floor as best he can. However, his rest is interrupted when the girl alerts him to the strong presence of magic in the surroundings, firmly stating that there's a demon nearby. In fact, the city's sound system announces an enemy attack is happening and all civilians must evacuate. Stepping into the street, Kai laments that even one of humanity's last refuges is in danger, confirming his belief that his race is cornered with no one to save them. However, from what he experienced yesterday, he believes he might be the only person capable of at least imitating Sid in wielding the forbidden sword. Armed with this trump card, he heads into battle. Meanwhile, Saki and Ashrin are already on the front lines firing at the demons, but the creature's tough armor prevents them from being injured. Ashrin asks his comrade to grab the machine gun. On her way, the girl is almost killed by one of the enemies, but Kai appears in time to save Saki. After striking the demon hard, he tells her to use water against the opponents. When they absorb the liquid, their stone bodies become heavy, preventing them from flying. After that, it's a matter of bombing the enemies until they turn to ashes. Speaking of which, it seemed like it was Ashrin's turn to die, but Kai manages to help again just in time. With Sid's sword in hand, the boy seems to be on a much higher level than he ever expected, and this sudden power is what has so far balanced the forces between the two races. With Rin's help, the duo manages to take down the last opponent, and the extraordinary ability of that entity makes the human realize she could indeed face Vanessa. Even so, part of the city is devastated and structures housing the population are in flames. Terrified, Saki and Ashrin arrive with 1,000 questions about how Kai was able to do all that. He reveals that he came from a world where humans won this conflict, and the fighting style from his world, along with special ammunition, are technological advancements that helped secure this victory. The two fighters from this universe were about to question the crazy story, but suddenly Ashrin is informed by the surveillance team that 2 demon scouts escaped. Without delay, the fighter runs to alert the headquarters, already foreseeing the worst, because now the demons know where the refuge is and will return with even more units next time. Saki asks Kai to accompany them to the HQ because Jean could use his strength in this war, so he agrees. On the way, Kai asks if the rebel army HQ of the Urza Federation isn't in the ruined royal capital, but Ashrin believes that precisely because of this, the demons would never think humans are there. Saki explains that this idea came from the former commander Jean's father, who retired 2 years ago due to an injury, passing the title to his son. Sometime later at headquarters, the officers can't believe the man, and the entity came from an alternate world where the war was won, and Jean wants to know the relationship between her and Kai in this different world, since he spoke to her as if he knew her. Kai then explains they were childhood friends, and Jean always said she wanted to be like Og and Jur. Hearing these names, Jean is shocked and ends the meeting right there. At night, Phelan knocks on Kai's door to inform him that the commander is waiting for him. Upon arrival, the boy sees his friend without her male disguise, and she reveals that only Phelan and the veteran directors know she is a woman. She then expresses surprise that Kai knows the nicknames of her father and grandfather Og and Jur. For this reason, despite not believing everything, she considers the possibility that the stranger is telling the truth and asks for his help to contact the other 5 resistance centers and encircle the demons intending to invade the Neo-Vishal refuge. Rin argues that even if the mission succeeds, it would only provoke the demons further, who would retaliate with even more force, but Jean sees no other option. Thus, Kai suggests they attack the royal capital, targeting the Dark Empress Vanessa. Thinking the man is crazy, the commander reminds him that this demon was responsible for decimating the entire capital defense army 30 years ago and occupying the palace. In response, Kai mentions Sid's story, who defeated the demon's heroine alone and feels he can do the same. Skeptical of the young fighter, the commander asks why he seems so willing to risk his life for this mission. He emphasizes that he saw Ashran and Saki risking their necks in battle, and even if he returned to his original world, he wouldn't be able to face them if he left them to die in the alternate world. Finally, he devises a plan based on the perception that demons are more concerned with other races than with humans. Thus, most of their forces are stationed near the borders, and probably only about 10% of the total demonic forces are in the royal capital. He suggests that while he fights Vanessa, the rebel army keeps these 10% occupied. Jean agrees they can hold the enemies for a while, but fears most of her troops will be dead before reaching the palace. In light of this, Phelan suggests they invade from underground, because behind the palace there is a subterranean railway line that the royal family used as an escape route. Surprised, Jean asks why she wasn't informed about this railway before, and the fighter replies that Jean's father didn't want her to risk herself to that extent, so he asks the subordinates to omit this strategy. With that said, the commander announces a meeting to finally retake the Urza Federation.